Don't set goals if you're not serious. You know, if you set a goal and your brain says you're full of shit, what is the point? Set a goal that you feel in your heart and you're going to commit to 1,000%.
What's up, guys? First podcast of the year. Super excited. I think with any story, what makes a good story is how low are the lows and how high are the highs. And this guy's arc is very fucking big. His lows are super low. And as far as his highs go, he did $1 billion in real estate revenue in 5 years. So if that does not get you to listen, you should probably never listen to any of our fucking episodes ever again. Mentor, family man, coach, and probably one of the most stylish 35 and over males I know in my whole entire life. Let's go, baby.
You better get out.
Go.
You better get out more than.
Hey.
Thank you for that.
Kevion, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks,
And he's a guy that's personally impacted my life in a big way. We'll get into it later. But I want to get a little bit into your backstory, and then we'll get into now.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to give you the floor. You've done this before. So why don't you just give everybody everything about your backstory? Where are you from? How'd you grow up?
Man, I was born in Oakland, 1982. You know, my parents got married as high school sweethearts. My pops was like the troublemaker, and my mom was like a good Christian girl. And her being with my dad was a way of rebelling. And they actually moved to the Bay Area really early when they were in their 1920s for my dad to basically get out of the hustle. But so I was born in 82 in Oakland, but the hustle brought my dad back. And I didn't really, we grew up five miles from here in East Los Angeles, and I didn't
Middle class, upper class?
well, it was interesting because we had like, my dad had made a lot of money, and I had no idea what he did, right? So like my first 5 years, they were throwing parties and pet houses at the Bonaventure, and I'm just a little dude, 4 or 5 years old, not really knowing what's going on. And so, you know, my dad would come home from these trips. He'd be in South America, Belize, and he'd come home with literally a briefcase full of money, and he'd just throw it on the bed, and they'd take me out of school, and I didn't really know what he did. And then one day we just get a knock on the door, and my dad was gone. And, you know, my mom told me that the next time I saw him, it was going to be behind a glass because he was in fire school. You know, my dad was going away to be a fireman, is what she said. So that's why I would be talking to him behind a glass. And then when I was around 11, I learned, my dad wasn't a fireman, you know. So that was pretty much how I grew up, my youth. And
then it was just your mom only?
Yeah, it was my mom. We went from having everything to really being on welfare. You know, we would live in foreclosed homes. I have a younger brother, Quinn, and a younger sister, Marina. We would stay with family. We would stay really wherever we could, and my mom would hustle all kinds of different jobs, from sales jobs. My mom started a clown business at one point when I was like 6 or 7 years old, just like whatever to keep the lights on. And it's crazy thinking back because, like, I commonly remember the lights not being on, like electricity bill not being paid, but my home still feeling warm because my mom was still there, you know, and they always impressed upon me like a feeling of family, and like as long as we got each other, it's all good, you know. So
again, we have all middle class loving moms. That's the theme of
absolutely.
Almost 15 episodes.
Yeah, my mom never stopped trying to expose us to new things. So my pops got out of prison in like 93, 94, and we have the same name. So for safety reasons, I needed to move where he was, which was Ohio. And when we left, we were on welfare still. We lived in a city called La Puente, and so my mom was on welfare. I moved to Ohio. I come back 96, 97, and my mom was pushing a range. She bought a house. She was married to this new dude, and I'm like, what happened? And she showed me a vision board. She went to a place called Landmark Education, which then introduced her to Tony Robbins, which then got her this sales job at a real estate motivational company, right? So she basically sold seminars to real estate agents and sold coaching programs to real estate agents.
I did not know this landmark came this early in your life. You always talk about this landmark thing, but keep going.
And so I'm like, and so she literally brought me into the house and she's like, this is what I've been doing while you guys were gone. She showed me this vision board and it had a house in Orange County. It had a photo of a range. It had like all of us as a family on these vacations. And it kind of just blew my mind. It was a total culture shock.
How did she find out about this and get involved in?
So the company that she worked for, they would introduce them to all these principles like Think and Grow Rich and Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy. And so my mom became a motivational, just like, and she needed to get us back. So like me, my brother, and my sister, we all moved to Ohio. And, you know, my parents were fighting over custody and blah, blah, blah. She needed to be able to prove like, no, it's better for my kids here. So when we moved back, I was like, it was a major culture shock, you know? And I thought it was cool, but I was still wilding out. You know, by the time I was in 11th grade, I'd been to 17 different schools. So I counted my high schools the other day with my daughter. I have 4 kids. And I didn't realize this. I went to 6 high schools in 3 years.
Why? Kicked out? Trouble?
It got to a point, I mean, you figure at that point I'd already been, up until 8th grade, I'd already been in 11 schools by 8th grade. So come high school, I just didn't really care anymore. And I think I was starting to enroll myself out of schools. I was enrolling myself into schools. And I think it became a game, you know? And it's funny thinking back, not to like fast forward, but that many, at the time it was like an interesting experience to be going through that many schools. But that skill set of having to adopt in new cities with new people has become my greatest strength in sales.
Did you go to college?
No, I dropped out of high school. So I became, my junior year of high school, I was heavily like 93 to really 99, it was skateboarding and hip hop. That was it. Skateboarding, you know, Santa Monica Courthouse, Chafee and the IE, and sneaking into hip hop shows. That was it. That was my whole life, and wilding out. And so my junior year of high school, a friend of mine, she was a new girl in school, and she wanted to learn how to DJ, and instead we produced a child instead of learning how to beat match.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was a junior in high school when I got that news. We were just friends, and
so it was on accident.
Well, it definitely wasn't on purpose at 17, for sure, man. That's for sure. It was the scariest thing I could possibly imagine. That was like the first point in my life where I felt like being serious. I'd never been serious my whole life. I didn't care about anything.
Just drinking, fucking
just
around,
wilding out, skating, trying to learn to switch heel flip down some stairs. I didn't care about anything.
Tell us about that emotion when you got that actual news.
It was, first of all, it was denial. I was like, yeah, right. You know, I got a text and I actually felt it. I actually felt it when I saw this. I think it was, I was probably on a pager. I don't know, like 99, 2000. And I saw her phone number on my phone and it said 911. And I just felt something. And the interesting thing is, like, I stayed in touch throughout her, you know, the 9 months. But I would go over there and I don't want to get too much into what happened with the dynamics of her family, but it wasn't cool. Like immediately it wasn't cool, even though we were cool. You know, I think that a lot of people kind of felt like they needed to protect her. But when my son was born, we still had some things to figure out. Like month 1, we were in court and I was now 18 years old. I think she had just turned 18. And it was pretty scary. For
the people listening, he's got a beautiful marriage now. I've met his wife and everything's great. So this is fucking mind-blowing.
No, it's insane, man. It's insane looking back. Like, you know, I didn't know that what at the time was the scariest thing on the planet would be the ultimate turning point in my life. That I would say becoming a father at 18 years old has been the #1 turning point when I look at everything from my best friend Jonas passing away in 2011, to my dad passing away at 50, to having a child at 18 years old. When I look at all these different things, I would say that was the number one turning point that made me actually look at my life in a different way.
And just force responsibility on yourself.
Yeah, I still wasn't ready, right? But I think that it definitely made me look at things differently. And before I even told my mom, I called my mom's friend, who was a top producing real estate agent in Seattle. And I'm like, dude, what do I do, bro? And he's like, maybe you should get into real estate, bro. Like, he was making a lot of money. And I was like, I could do this. I've been selling stuff my whole life. I've been in sales my whole life. I've always been selling stuff. So before I told my mom that she was going to be a late 30s grandma, I'm like, Mom, I figured it out. I know what I'm going to do. She's like, what? I was like, I'm going to sell real estate. She's like, what about skateboarding? What about DJing? I was like, I'm going to sell real estate. She's like, you're going to be amazing.
That's Kevion, the strategist right there, telling his mom about the new job, getting her happy, just to set her up for.
Yeah.
What happened when you told her?
I said, and by the way, and she's like, are you serious? And
in the same conversation?
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to be a top producer in real estate agent. I'm going to be like one of those people at the seminars that you sell. And she's like, you're going to do great. I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad you feel like that. I got some other news. And she said, is it? And she said the girl's name. And she's like, I had a feeling when she would call the house, blah, 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 blah. So, moms know.
All right, so let's talk about the path on real estate, because that's what you do today. So that's almost 20 years you've been doing this for.
I got into the game at 99. I dropped out of high school. And
what was your first sales job, though? Because you said
my very first sales job was when I was 6 or 7.
What?
My grandpa had a cabin in Big Bear, and my cousin Melissa and we found some mistletoe, and we were like, man, we could sell this. And so she cut up some mistletoe. I cut up a bunch of mistletoe. We put some ribbons around it. We went to the Stater Brothers in the city of Yucaipa, and we both chilled out in front of there. And after like an hour, we regrouped, and I was like, how much did you make? And she's like, I made like $30. And she's like, how much did you make? I was like, I made 120. And I was like 6.
For a 6-year-old?
And so she sold hers for like $4 each, and I was selling mine for like $8 each. And that was kind of the first time I was like, wow, you could do the same thing, but if it's a higher price, you know what I mean? And then my next sales job was when I was around maybe 4th or 5th grade. And it was on one of the times when, like, my pops would come home from prison, he would get a job, and on one of those times, he was managing a fitness gym called Family Fitness. And so, there'd be all those free boxes inside Pizza Huts or places where you feel guilty about what you're eating, where, fill out a thing for a free 6-month membership. And so 4th, 5th grade, I would get on my bike. My dad would give me kind of a route where I would go. I would pick up the leads from the little box, open it with the key, come back to Family Fitness, and get on the phone. Hey, this is Kevin Sturtevant with Family Fitness, and this is 4th or 5th grade. You filled out a membership for 6 months. You didn't win the 6 months, but you won the 2 weeks. So wanted to see when you'd like to come in, and be like, oh, I don't really want that anymore. And so he would give me this rebuttal card and say, oh, I don't want that anymore. So you don't want that anymore. I understand that. Let me ask you, when you were filling it out at Pizza Hut, what were you thinking about at the time? Like, truly learning the art of handling objections. Yeah.
It's so mind-blowing. Every single person that we've had on started early, and I love seeing it because...
the mistletoe is a good one. I've never even heard of that one.
And man, I would say the other part of really learning sales was sneaking into places, sneaking into venues, sneaking into hip-hop shows, haggling with the person at the door. 9th and Broadway right here, back in the day, there was this thing called Unity, and there would be the dopest shows at Unity. And even though it was all ages, they would always sweat me because I would be, figure 93, I'm 11. Trying to sneak into these shows, right? Like probably 94 or something. I saw Eminem opening up for Helter Skelter Boot Camp Click, which was opening up for Jurassic 5.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
This is a long time.
Yeah.
So I want to get into, I always look at you as like a mini Yoda. So I want to get into some universal
Let's do it.
Kevion truths and into certain pockets. Let's talk sales. So we
Let's
talked
do it,
about that
man.
briefly. I think that's the most important thing
Yeah.
in business. If you can't sell yourself, then you're fucked. So let's get 3 of the most important things you think that makes a good salesperson.
Absolutely, man. Number one, I would say it's caring. Like, I don't care how good your product is. If I don't feel that you actually care, this is me personally, I'm probably not going to buy it. If I feel like you just want a sale more than to actually make a difference in my life, I'm not feeling it. You can feel it. Like they say, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So I think that number one is a sincere interest to make a difference. I don't care if it's ice cream, fitness, real estate, clothing. If you feel like, man, if you try this on, like I'm telling you, right? But which one is higher? Do you want to make a commission or do you want to make a difference? So I feel like number one is a sincere intention to improve someone else's life higher than making a commission.
I always say just giving a shit
Yeah.
is and not being a piece of shit are two
Right.
huge things.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 2.
Number 2 is I would say is understanding what rapport is. And rapport is when somebody feels like they know you, they like you, they trust you, and there's a process of getting into rapport. People like being around people who are like themselves. So there's a study, there's a way to really understand how to get in rapport. And it's one of the principles is mirroring and matching, right? So what are the things you can mirror and match when you're in communication? Here, and that's at the top of sales. Sales is communication. It's not your website. Yeah, it's your product, but I think that your product and your website and everything else comes secondary in terms of the sale. The foundation of sales is communication. So there's a lot of ways to be in communication. And when you're truly interested in making a sale, I think the important thing is to be able to understand your client's or potential prospects' point of view. So how do you get into rapport? What can you mimic and match? Well, rate of speech, right? If someone's talking really fast, you should probably talk really fast. If someone's down
Mark-
from the
teach
south
Mark
and they're
that.
talking a little slow and you start to talk really fast, they're going to be like, who is this city slicker? You know what I mean?
There's Mark right there.
You know what I mean? So understanding rate of speech, understanding emotions. As a salesperson, you think hi, and you're calling somebody who's having a horrible day, they don't want anything to do with you. So I think understanding how to connect with someone's emotions, right? If they're angry, you got to be angry with them. If they're tired, you kind of got to be tired with them. Body language, right? So rate of speech, emotions, body language, pronunciation. If somebody calls it a garage, don't call it a garage. It's a garage. I got a 3-car garage. Because you want to, when you're in sales, you want the person you're speaking to know that you're from the same tribe, right? You essentially want to honor someone else's tribe and have them feel like, oh yeah, they're from the same place that I am, right? If we want to influence until somebody else feels like I can see life the way they see life, it's going to be difficult to make a sale.
Outside of mirroring techniques, what are some ways that you just probe to find commonalities? Like for me personally, I always stick by, it's from 10 years ago, it's called FORM, family,
Yep.
occupation, recreation, and money.
Yeah.
And I just probe with that. Just like, do you have a family? Do you have a kids? What do you do for a living? What do you like to
Yes.
do for fun? What,
So that would be number 3.
Yeah.
It's in sales. It's qualifying, right? So that is a we have number 1. It's what did we say for number 1? It's genuinely caring.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's understanding the art of rapport, and number 3, it's qualifying. Not everybody's going to be great for your product, right? So I think it's asking somebody, so do you collect art? What kind of art do you collect? Right? What are your interests? What kind of music do you listen to? When I'm talking to somebody about potentially selling their home, there's a set of qualifying questions. Selling is not telling. Selling is a series of questions asked. So when I'm talking to somebody and I say, how long have you lived here? Oh, where'd you move from? How'd you happen to pick this neighborhood? If you were to move, where do you think you might go to next? Oh, wow. And when would that be? What kind of style of home would you be interested in? Modern, Spanish, craftsman, right? When would you like to be there? Do you have an agent that you're working with? what happens with a lot of salespeople is they're just talking, right? And they're trying to sell to somebody who's like, I have absolutely no interest in moving whatsoever. When you sit down with a doctor, right? What is a doctor doing?
Asking probing
How much do you
questions.
weigh, right? Do you do drugs? When was the last time? What kind of drugs do you do? Are you sexually active? What's your nationality? How much do you weigh? Blah, 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 blah. What are they doing? My mom actually said this best. I hope I don't screw it up, but she said, prescription without proper diagnosis is malpractice. So if I try to assume that you want this product, if I try to assume that you need this prescription and I haven't properly diagnosed you, that's malpractice. Same thing with the professional real estate agent. If I try to assume you want a condo when you want a condo in Hollywood, when you just told me that you want to downsize to the Inland Empire and I'm trying to sell you a condo in Hollywood because it's a higher price, that's malpractice.
I think people waste too much time on trying to sell the unsellable to people that don't want it.
And they're not even motivated.
So for you as a real estate agent, do you think you can close anybody, or is there just people that you think, even with the mirroring techniques and the probing techniques, that's just you're not going to find any commonalities? Like, do you think you could sell anybody, or is it, and obviously you're a supremely confident human, but what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that if we're talking about Southern California real estate and you're interested in buying a home or you're interested in selling a home, then the systems and the principles and the processes that I have cannot be matched by any other real estate agent in Southern California. There is no way. When you're a seller, what you're looking for, what most sellers want, is the highest price in the fastest amount of time and the smoothest process. My team, my structure, and my process, without a doubt, can accomplish that, without a shadow of a doubt. Back in the day, I didn't have the track record to prove that. I was just feeling it. Now, I have the track record when I can show that in multiple different neighborhoods, I've sold homes and invented and created a new high-price comp in a faster amount of time than any other agent, right? There literally is not an agent truly in Southern California that could say that last year they created 10 high-price comparable sales in 10 different cities. Maybe they got their little pocket on lock, and that's great, but show me somebody that can show you 10 different high-price comps, historical high-price comps, accomplished in 45 days or less in 10 different cities. How did that happen? It happened because we have a process and an understanding of property value. You know, I also invest into property. So I understand the difference of materials. I know what a slab of quartz costs compared to marble. I can sell those things. And in terms of a buyer, real estate agents' value has been diminished a lot with websites like Zillow and Trulia and Redfin. You don't need me to go and find a property. Well, the thing that's different about us is we have the ability to find off-market properties like no other team. So in terms of what does a seller want? A seller wants a high price, fast amount of time. Yep, I could do that better than anybody else. What does a buyer want? A buyer wants a dope house, and even more valuable if I can find you something that nobody else knew about, right? So whether that translates to the buyer or the seller is really up to them, and it's up to, it's not so much about me being able to close somebody as much as it is being able to showcase my value. And it's just black and white. It just makes sense. In my opinion, like, you're a buyer, we can show you things that nobody else knows about. You're a seller, we can sell your home for the highest price possible in the fastest amount of time.
That was a very interesting answer from a buyer perspective. I thought it would be just getting the best deal. Mm-hmm. But you're saying kind of like with scarcity and fear of loss and like consumer products, people are really buying into the fact that you have stuff that other people don't have. That's like a top selling point for you?
Yeah, we have the data to back it up, right? We can show, 15 sales that we found for a buyer that nobody else knew about. It wasn't on Zillow. It was completely sold off market.
Why don't people put it on market? Just like how?
Well, it's also the way we go about finding these properties, right? Like my crew, we're in the streets pounding the pavement. So if you look on a street called Santiago Drive in Newport Beach, I listed a home in the middle, 2408 Santiago Drive. I listed it for $3.195, and I sold it in less than 30 days for $3.347. however many hundreds of thousands over. I had multiple offers on that property. So I then spoke to the neighbor to the left and I said, hey, we had multiple offers on your neighbor's property. We landed at 3.3. Any interest in selling? They were like, no, but this neighbor over here might. So then I talked to that neighbor and I got that neighbor 100,000 more than they were originally asking for without any hassle. No open houses, didn't have to fix anything, as is. So I represented the buyer and the seller on that. And I'm like, well, that was cool. So then I went to the neighbor to the right of that house, 2400 Santiago Drive. We have 2408, 2400. And I went to 2400. Hey, listen, I sold your neighbor's house for 3.347. Happened really easily. We have a bunch of other people looking right here on this block. Any chance you'd look at an offer? They're like, yeah, we'd sell for, 3.7. Brought them an offer of 3.5. We agreed on 3.6, right? So 3 homes touching each other, 2420, 2408, and 2400 Santiago. I represented the buyer and the seller on all 3.
Cash.
In a 30 to 45 day period.
Love it.
So there's just, now that only happened because I was willing to get uncomfortable and go and knock on a door and, hear 5 or 6 people tell me to F off first. Okay, cool. On to the next.
Just for context, I want to rewind to fast forward real quick. So let's just talk about your shittiest moment and the downs. Let's just paint a picture.
Yeah.
Just tell us.
Oh my God.
Tell us your worst moments. I know your marriage, obviously, it wasn't always as good as it is now.
Yeah.
Drugs, alcohol. One of your best friends passed away. Why don't you just paint a moment?
So I was talking about this last night with my stepdad, right? Because, and it was interesting. He brought this up, and I knew he was going to bring this up. And there was a moment where, there's so many, but there was one moment specifically where Alana and I, and this was my stepdad just last night. It was his 65th birthday, telling us this story, and he loves bringing up my low points for some reason, because it's like, yeah, bro, I know you were because I moved in with them in periods when we were, broken up and stuff. And so he goes, Kev, do you remember that time we were at the house and, you and Alana were going through your thing and you were wearing glasses in the house and we were drinking and all of a sudden you just started crying. And you were crying uncontrollably, and you were saying, what is it going to take for me to have a life like this? And I was like, yes, I remember that. And so I think there were so many points in my marriage where, my wife comes from a split home. Her father did some things to her mother that should not be done in a marriage, and that was her exposure. Both of my parents, between both of them together, there's like 6 marriages. My dad had been married 3 or 4 times. My mom is now on her 3rd and final marriage. But it took a lot of breakdown to find these breakthroughs, and that's in my DNA. I would get so frustrated with why don't I know how to do a relationship? Why do I keep screwing it up?
Probably because you were so fucking young.
Alana, right out of the gate, was a dream girl. Right out of the gate, the best girl ever. And I just continued to screw it up. So there were points like that, a lot of points. Alana, my wife, at Alana Dawn, just did a really cool post because it's normally me sharing all the dirt. Yeah. And she shared some dirt about some major low points. I got DMs from all kinds of people like, bro,
give us some fucking dirt right now. Give us some dirt.
I'll tell you one time, and this doesn't have to do with my marriage specifically, but there was a point where in 2007 I left the real estate industry to try to go and be a motivational life coach for the youth. I started a company called Peace Academy. I left real estate at a high. I had money in the bank. I moved into this rental in Costa Mesa, and I started to build this company called Peace Academy. 2007 was not the year to start a life coaching company. If anybody remembers, that is the start of this thing called the recession. By 2008, I had completely exhausted my savings. When you're in a recession, you have to put aside things like your personal trainer, your life coach. You can't afford that stuff. Nobody can afford a life coach in a recession. You're just trying to survive. That's your life coach, survival. And it got to a point where I couldn't pay my rent, and it sucked because the dude who owned the home was like a homie. He's the guy who started Super Shoes. You know what I mean? He was like the homie, and I was late on rent, late again. And it got to the point where I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm going to make this even work. I have a coaching program. There were people like 20, however many people paying me $100, $200 a month, and we're all on a group conference call. I used freeconferencecall.com. Anybody that knew me back then, they know about these coaching calls. My boy B-Win, my dude B-Win would be on these coaching calls. And I was broke as a joke talking about be-do-have. And there was a moment where, as I'm on a coaching call, I see Southern California Edison walking in my backyard, and I'm like, oh, shit. And electricity gets shut off.
Oh my God.
Because the electricity got shut off first, and this is 2008. And then we wrote a check to get the electricity put back on, and then that check bounced. So now this time, and I told my dude Ozzy, I was like, bro, please, we need this. Like, electricity got shut off. I had no money. I had one person that I could borrow from back then, and that was Jonas. And 6 months before that, I already borrowed from him. I had nobody I could borrow from. So my last 2 weeks in this house on Flamingo Drive in Costa Mesa, me, my friend Ozzy, my son Eli, rocked it with no hot water and no electricity, dude. And until like 2 years ago, my oldest son, he's 19 now, he thought that we were just being Indians back then, because that's what I told him. You know what I mean?
I love the stories.
Yeah, bro, my brother lived with us at the time too. He hopped over to the neighbor's fence, and this is $1 million home I'm renting. Do you know how lame you feel renting $1 million home with no hot water and no electricity and talking to people about living the best life possible? Do you know how full of shit I felt like I was? You know what I mean? And so, man, it's crazy because I remember when we finally made the decision to move out. Alana was pregnant, by the way. And so Alana moved to her mother-in-law, to her mom's house in Glendora.
Kevion was getting it in with a big bank account and a small bank account.
Yeah, you hang around my family too quick, and like we are a highly fertile family. So, you know, I just remember, dude, we were moving out of that house on Flamingo Drive, and I literally packed up the last thing into the U-Haul. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm moving from this house into my mother-in-law's house in Glendora. And it was like my dream house. The plan was for our coaching company to blow up, and then I buy it from this dude. I'm like, let me check the mail real quick. I checked the mail, and when I was 19, I made this investment into this horseshit company called, I'm not going to say the name, but anyways, I checked the mail, and there was this refund check from this investment that I made when I was freaking 19 years old, dude. 6-7 years later.
I've gotten those before.
Bro,
This
it
company
was
called
like
Burn Lounge.
$411.
Saving your
Bro,
life.
I started crying. Like, you know, and there's those moments where, here's what I was talking to my stepdad about last night. When I think about these moments, like that moment, or the moment of the 9 million breakups I've gone through with my wife, or having my 7 Series and my CLK in 2007 around the same period get repossessed in the same month. It's just a moment. It's just a 3 to 4 hours where you feel like you're gonna die. You know what I mean? And I think when you go through those moments where you feel like you're gonna die and you don't, you start thinking about how you really want to live. So for me, I just try to encourage people, like, look, it's going to pass. Like, this breakup, this breakdown, this feeling of like empty and broke and lost and confused. I get that you feel that at 10:30. Keep looking. Keep looking for what is the lesson in this. There's always a lesson. There's always a testimony that's going to come from the test. But what we find depends on what it is we're looking for. So when you're going through that storm, you just have to trust. I know there's going to be an abundance of crops that are going to come in fruition. I just got to make it through this storm, because it's in the storm where we give up. It's in the storm where we relapse. It's in the storm where we go and do something stupid. It's in the storm where people jump off a cliff, which I felt like that a lot of times. After I lost my dad in 2012 and wifey and I split up, at this point I have 3 kids, right? It's 2012 now, and my best friend just passed away 6 months earlier, Memorial Day 2011, and my dad passed away middle of January, and I'm wilding out. I'm using every drug you can imagine, trying to find myself. I'm broke. Alana's over it. And what's funny is I had just proposed to her, I think 30 days before, in hopes of like, maybe proposing to this dream girl will fix everything. Let me at least commit to something. I'm a broke loser with 3 kids. Maybe if I at least propose to her, that is one thing. Well, it was cool for 2 weeks until I start freaking drinking and doing everything else and not coming home. And she got over it. And we broke up middle of January. And I got my own place in February. For the first time, February 2012, it's all on me. Case wasn't anything. I had maybe $1,800. I swear to God, dude, I literally thought, like, if I kill myself, there's like, the policy wasn't even a lot. It was like $500,000 because I wasn't making a lot. In 2011, I made $60,000 with 3 kids. So, I was able to get somewhat of a life insurance policy. And I literally thought in that point, it's probably coming down when you have thoughts like that. And I said, I'm either going to close this show down and do it myself, or I'm going to create something that lives on forever, that I'm inspired out of my mind about. And I remember something that Will Smith said, and he said, the key to life is the double R's, reading and running. Because no matter what problem you have in the world, there's 9 million people who wrote a book on it. And running. Because if you can run and learn to quiet that little voice that's telling you to stop, you can overcome anything. And then maybe a month after my dad passed, Lana and I are split up. I'm on the treadmill running my freaking ass off. Hate running. And I just thought about why I got into real estate. And I thought about my dad. His initials are KAS, just like mine. And I thought about my son, Eli. And I just saw a case. And I called my mentor. And I was like, hey, I want to create a real estate company. And he's like, so what does that look like? And together we kind of designed this company that would be focused on modern and mid-century modern and contemporary architecture. Mind you, my average sales price at the time was $300,000. I had never sold shit.
And what is it now?
Last year it was 2.3. I have a listing right now, 58 North Lasenda. Google it. We just dropped the price to $31 million. It's truly the sickest home on the West Coast. It is just look it up, people. 58 North Ascendant. Somebody buy this house already?
Yeah, I'm down.
It's insane, dude.
I want to stop you in your tracks for a second. You talked about reading and running. And reading, obviously, you're a book of wisdom here. Let's just go into how do you learn and how do you improve yourself? Through reading, podcasts.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us, 5 different podcasts or books that personally changed your life and just a little snippet onto each one?
I got to keep it real because I'm the guy that has every single book and I read it through like 10 pages, right? I'm like the Cliff Notes dude. I'm the dude that goes into the seminar, feels the vibe, takes one thing, and then ditches it. So I learn the most by doing, right? I grow the most when I'm in action. I feel like, there's certain books that I've read. I read a book called One Thing. I'm not even kidding. It will take me a year to finish a book because I'll read it for 5 minutes, put it down, read it again. I'm always listening to something. These days, I find myself listening to a lot more pastors. If there's one thing that I want to improve this year, it's my spiritual walk, my walk with my Creator. I'm Christian. So I feel like, when am I going to learn that book better? So I listen to a lot of pastors like T.D. Jakes, a dude named Stephen Furtick. I found that I feel like when I'm listening to pastors speak about the word, bro, I'm going to the ultimate source. There's Tony Robbins, for sure. He's cool. There's all these other motivational dudes. They're cool. But if we go to the source, and these dudes are really talking about the creation of the world coming from the highest level of accountability possible, that's the message that I'm trying to tap into, you know? And then I just get to work, man. Like, one of the things that I've learned is that we are in a highly distraction-filled space all day long between social media and open workspaces. It's so easy to get bogged down with things that aren't even moving us forward. I think when you get really clear on your core value of how you can be the biggest benefit to people on the planet, and you just zone in on that. Here's the thing, you're never gonna figure out what that thing is unless you do a lot of work, unless you spend a lot of time in design, unless you spend a lot of time in sales. If you don't spend a lot of time in the craft, you're like, well, maybe I should be a fashion dude. Maybe I should be a music dude. Maybe I should, if you just stick with one thing, being a real estate agent, like, I had no idea that I was just doing this to survive, right? It was always my side thing. For 10 years, real estate was my side thing. I thought I was going to be a motivational dude. I thought I was going to help Jonas take LRG to this other level. 6 months before he passed away, we started a separate LLC. We were going to start this whole other clothing company. But I decided to take a look at my life and ask myself this question. Where can I be the most valuable to other people? Well, it's not fashion. I like fashion, but I don't know how to create it. I like music. I don't know how to make beats. I can kind of rap, you know, but I don't have bars enough to take me to a really high level. You know what? I can sell. You know, I'm motivational, but I can't figure out how to make money and take care of 3 kids doing that. You know what? I can sell. And in 2012, I decided to just focus on that. And through focusing and working on one thing, that's where I learned the most. I learn a lot in doing. I learn a lot in saying, you know what? That whole neighborhood up there, I'm going to knock that entire neighborhood. So to give you an example, in 2012, I came up with 5 things that I was going to do. Work, right? I was going to make 20 calls every morning. I was going to knock 50 doors every single day. That's 250 doors a week, 1,000 doors a month. There's 3 other things, but just think, one of those things was knock 1,000 doors a month. I knocked 50, 60,000 doors in 4 years. That's where I learned, bro. I learned when I'm out there and somebody's saying, get out of here. We don't have anything to do with you. That's learning.
I did that door-to-door sales too. Let's go, baby. That shit's
absolutely
amazing.
Yeah, my first listing, which my first crazy sale above 10 million bucks came from a door knock. Yeah, 845 Cliff Drive. We sold it for 11.3 million, and it came from knocking on someone else's door down the street.
Don't be scared, guys. So
let's go for it.
Real estate agent is your main gig, and you
Yes.
do life coaching on the side. You've helped me a lot.
Yeah.
A bunch of people on our network, Chris from Leverage, who's actually on the podcast, Drama. And you kind of systematize life in 7 different equities.
Yes.
I actually have it written
My
in my
man,
bathroom.
I
You
saw
saw
that.
it. And for me, looking at it every morning, it really centralizes me. And I see what matters in life, and I just see, hey, I'm severely lacking in one of these areas.
Right.
I need to get on it. So why don't you talk about those 7 equities that you created and then what they...
So I didn't even create them, really. I kind of mix it together. I would hear about these from a lot of people, from Zig Ziglar, kind of my teachers, right? When I dropped out of high school, I became a student of sales and mindset. That was my new craft. Put the skateboard aside, put the turntables aside. I'm going to learn how to really, really sell. And I became a fanatic about selling and personal development. I have a box at my house, like, of cassette tapes. I would record my sales calls, go back and evaluate them by myself. But in all of these programs, Jack Canfield, Zig, Tony, all these people, they would mention some mix of 6 to 9 things. And so I kind of broke it down to 7. And it's mind, body, soul, family, friends, business, and money. Mind, body, soul, family, friends, business, and money. And the principle, the idea is that first 3, your spiritual walk with your creator, whatever that might look like for you, right? Your health, your heart, what you eat, your diet, how you sleep, and your mindset. Those 3 are where the ultimate party is, right? At the end of the day, we want to be able to be there for other people and create things for other people. That's where we feel the most joy, right? The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So can I be of service to others when I'm totally falling apart? So. But what happens when you're freaking mentally on, spiritually on, physically on? You're able to be there for that next piece, which is most crucial, your family, right? And for people, family doesn't always mean blood, right? But who's got your back? Who's ride or die with you, right? You guys aren't blood, but you guys are family.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Jeffrey.
Me and KP, dude, we're family. I got his back, he's got my back.
Young
Right?
KP with the head shake. Let's go.
Always.
I want to talk about a couple.
And then business and money.
Yeah.
Right? And then business and money. So the idea.
Do you know I didn't even check my bank account every single day before I met you? And
Really?
That's one of the. That's I would say. I mean, there's a lot of things of those 7 that
Yeah.
you changed my life, but just checking my bank account
Right.
every single day for people out there, it sounds really stupid, but it makes you so much more aware of what you're spending money on. And check yourself.
And here's the thing to consider. In each of those areas, there's probably this BS story telling you can't have it all in that area. You can do good, physically, but that money thing, that's not for you, right? And I believe that when the stronger you are in the first 5, you're already good. You're already balling.
Yeah.
You're already balling where it matters most. So the less you need something, the easier it is to get it, right? You're already feeling good. The whole purpose of life is to feel good and to feel joy. So as you're already feeling good, you're like, you know what? That's the career that I want. You know what? That's the kind of money that I want to make. And because you don't need it, it's easier to attract it.
Ooh, that was good.
Yeah.
That was my favorite clip right there.
Hey, I want to talk about support systems because for me, I remember, we had met a couple times and
Yep.
we were at, I forgot the call, Bottega Louie.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about life coach. And I was thinking literally in my head, I was like, this is a smart guy. He's made a lot of money. But like, I don't need a fucking life coach. Like, fuck
Yeah.
this guy. And then we just started talking every week. And I was
Right.
like, wow, this really makes sense because I felt like I couldn't lie to you,
Yeah.
you know? And for me, Jeff always makes fun of me. He's different than me. I need to do like these mini challenges, these 30-day challenges, 60-day challenges.
Right.
And I literally have right now I'm doing one and I have a group text that we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're sending pictures of what we look like every single day. And we're calling each other bitches. Like, oh,
Right.
you go to the fucking gym yet, you little bitch. I'm like,
Yeah.
and that helps me stay accountable.
Awesome.
What are some small steps that you think somebody out there can take to improve in those 7 equities? For me, it's basically having people hold me accountable
Yes.
and just looking at the words in the mirror.
Crucial.
Yeah.
Crucial. Step 1 is write it down, right? Like I hear a lot of people give me props for talking about the 7 equities. Like, man, that really impacted my life. And that's cool. I love that. But what I love more than anything is when I see them on paper. For the listeners out there, like if you send me a screenshot of your goals, to me, that is the dopest thing possible. Why? Because you took action. It was one thing you put. You became the producer for your life's movie and you started to, when you put it on paper, oh man, that's when it gets real.
You're a big journaler, right?
I write a fair amount. Yeah, I'm constantly writing out my goals, I'm constantly writing out affirmations. So I say a lot of affirmations. Anything that I'm trying to do next that I'm in fear of, I create an affirmation about it. So, for example, like before I had listed my first oceanfront home, it was just something about oceanfront homes. It was like, damn, like I remember when I sold my first $1 million home, I was so nervous. And then selling my first $2 million home, shout out my boy Nick Diamond, so nervous because it's a new mountain. Then I sold a 3, and then I did a lot of 3 to 4s. And I remember saying, damn, if I could sell a $10 million oceanfront home, that would be insane. But my voice is like, no, you can't, you loser. You're a high school dropout. You're too short. The company and the brokerage you work for is lame. That will never happen. I'm like, damn, that voice is loud. So I needed to shut that voice down. The ego is not your amigo. And so I write out affirmations. Affirmations, there's a couple rules. They need to be in the present. So it's not I'm going to, it's just I am. They're never negative. So it's not saying I don't eat fatty foods. You don't say that's not a good affirmation. You don't want to put any attention on it. You say I eat foods that fuel me and give me life, right? You wouldn't say I'm not broke. You say I'm abundant. So I get specific with it, and I say, I, Kevin Sturdivant, am the luxury oceanfront specialist. And I say that, and the voice is like, yeah, right. I, Kevin Sturdivant, am the luxury oceanfront specialist. Dude, you say that enough times, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm a luxury oceanfront specialist. I better do something about this. And it was literally the first day that I went out knocking doors oceanfront, which you have no idea how uncomfortable I felt. I mean, you're just like, the door, bro, cost more than my car at the time. Like, the front door is it looks like a bank vault. You're knocking on the door, and you're trying to front. Really, I have no business being there. Knocking on the door. Hey, my name's Kevin Sturdivant. And here's the thing. I did have a potential buyer looking for oceanfront. So anybody could find a potential buyer. Are you interested in buying an oceanfront home one day?
Yeah.
Sick.
Yes.
Mark's my oceanfront buyer. Okay. So I'm out there knocking. Hi, my name's Kevin Sturdivant. I have a buyer that would love to be on this street. I'm sure this is forever, but I had to ask, is there any crazy chance you might look at an offer? No, go F yourself. Okay, cool. Next. Hey, my name, da, 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 da. And this person's like, yeah, it's really funny you're here. My husband's in the room on Zillow right now. Bink.
How many times, what percentage of times are you going to a cold lead that has no plans on selling the home, and then basically through you just asking and then putting together an offer, it closes?
So I would say in my first 5 years, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I went from 0 to $1 million in income in 4 years, literally. Like, made 60 something thousand in 2011 and made my first $1 million in 2015 to me. Of course, you have taxes and whatnot, but like, I saw what I was paying on taxes, and it was like, holy I made over $1 million. What the hell? And my goal was 5 years, and I did it in 4. So in those, and then I kept going. I felt like I just got lucky, man, because my income went so crazy. It went like 275, 310, 725, a mil. Holy crap. So going into 2016, I think I worked even harder because I didn't want to lose it. So for those first 5 years, 90%, dude, of everybody that I talked to was like this. 90%. Think about it. I made 1,000 contacts a month. That's 10,000 contacts conservatively, and I closed 50 deals. Right? That's less than.
It's 5%.
That's nothing. So
where do you see yourself in case in 5 years?
Man, I don't know if I should even say this
Fucking
out
say
loud,
it. Say
bro.
it.
I don't even know if I should say this out loud because what's crazy.
In 5 years, I'm going to send you this fucking snippet.
Bro, it's really crazy. I was running on New Year's Day, of course. I ran my 5K super early, New Year's Day. And I saw a newspaper article, like Wall Street Journal, and it was December 20th, 2025. And it said, Christmas comes early for the Case Real Estate crew. And it said, global real estate firm, blah, 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 acquires Southern California real estate brand for $50 million. And I thought about that, and I saw that, and I kind of got goosebumps because we just became an independent brand a month ago. And I don't know where that came from, but it wasn't so much about the $50 million. It was the fact that that acquisition would then give us the resources to become a global brand, right? Can I try to become a global brand on my own? Sure. But right now, I'm highly focused on Southern California, modern, mid-century modern, and coastal luxury, right? As we develop our brand, and I think by 2023, we'll probably be around $3 billion a year just that year. I feel like we're going to hit $3 billion in 2023 alone. As you start to hit those kind of numbers, if you're doing 5, 6, 7 billion a year, what that brings in profit, I'm like, oh my gosh. So to answer your question, we will be in the process in 5 years of becoming a global real estate brand.
Patient, realistic, love
Yeah.
it. Mm-hmm. Peace. Set goals and go. It's one of our officially licensed pieces from Monopoly.
This makes a lot of sense now, hearing your sales
That's
background.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think that we need to even go back over that. But why don't we talk a little bit about why you picked that piece?
Man, I picked this piece because I feel like if you don't throw your hat over the fence of what you want to do, if you don't have clear goals, you're just a ship without a rudder. And it doesn't matter what your goal is, right? I was in a meeting yesterday with this dude, and he's like, man, one of the things that I want to do is I want to start getting up at 6 a.m. To me, in my voice in my head, I'm like, damn, come on, 6 a.m., homie, you get up earlier than that. But you know what? That's his goal. That's what he wants to do. And here was the interesting thing. I asked him, I'm like, so are you willing to cut her a check for $1,000 if you don't wake up every day at 6? He's like, oh, well, he got all squirmy. I was like, well, then change it to 6:30. Do you want to do this or not? So I think that's a big part of, like, don't set goals if you're not serious. You know, if you set a goal and your brain says you're full of shit, what is the point? Set a goal that you feel in your heart and you're going to commit to 1,000%. Set a goal that you believe in, that gives you goosebumps, that makes you feel like, damn, can I do this? Don't set something that you know you could do. Set something that gets you excited. From how fast you want to run a mile in. Right now, I have a goal to one day beat my stepdad's fastest 5K. I would love to be able to son this dude. You know how fast he ran his fastest 5K? He was in his late 30s. He's a freak of nature, and he ran his fastest 5K in 17 minutes.
Jeez.
So you got to go almost 5 minutes each. It's a goal.
What?
It's a goal of mine.
Aggressive.
You know, I just say whatever the goal is, get real about it. Get sincere about it. Ask yourself the question, do I have the skills to make this happen? And if you don't, how are you going to acquire the skills? Do I have the crew to make this happen? If you don't, go and get the crew. When you have a goal and you have a vision for your life that you could feel, the world starts to connect you with the right people. The world connected you guys. You know, when I met Jonas, it was like he knew. It was 99, and he was like, oh man, like LRG is going to be the dopest clothing company known to mankind. And at the time, I was like looking at it, I was like, it's pretty tight. But he really felt in his heart like it was the next Ralph Lauren. And I don't even know if they had their investor at the time. It was like 3 or 4 shirts. The whole office was like the size of like right here, 2 boxes, some shirts. And he's like, no, this is like this is going to be the illest company ever. And he knew it. So the universe was like, well, you're going to need this investor. You're going to need this designer. Boom, Millhouse comes in. You're going to need this marketing guy. Boom, Albie and Woody come in. And the universe just connected him with everything. You're going to need this life coach. Well, I show up. You know what I mean?
Hey.
And then fast forward, 2005, LRG did like $150 million in sales.
Fuck.
So it starts with us as an individual saying, what's real to me? Don't worry about what anybody else thinks about your goal. What do you want? Nobody else cares how fast I want to run a 5K. But to me, that's in my soul. Like, I want to do that, you know? And so you got to put it down on paper, think about it, visualize it. Know that your ego is going to be in there telling you to stop, keep going, and you'll watch it manifest.
I feel like with goals for me, but you know, I was just gonna do this 75-day challenge, and I like actually looked at each element of it, and I was like, I might not even be able to do this with traveling. So
Yeah.
I think there also needs to be a certain level of challenging yourself, but also realistic that you can
Right.
accomplish it. So
Yeah.
making it realistic is definitely a huge one. I feel like people set these fucking crazy goals, which
Right.
it's great to dream big, but you also need to understand that you have the tools and the team to make that happen.
Yeah.
See, it's
totally.
weird. For me, I don't even set goals. He knows I don't set any goals.
You're just in action.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're in
None.
you're in subconscious goal setting though.
Yeah.
You know, you have it in your mind to, in my opinion, right? I think you have it in your mind to be the greatest designer on earth. So that's the goal. You're just in it.
Jeff is
You're
the
just a
fucking,
walking
he's
goal
literally,
machine.
he's
Yeah.
literally the fucking antithesis of you and me.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
thinks
yeah.
I'm fucking psycho for all these rules. I will give you credit though. You're in really good shape right now. This is the best shape he's been in. I've known him for 9 years.
so cool.
He's fucking doing something right. I don't know. Okay. So I want to wrap this up, and you've dropped so many gems. I just kind of want to give you the floor to the camera and just give a couple pieces of advice for young entrepreneurs out
Yeah.
there. I think a lot of our audience is young entrepreneurs, and you can keep it simple or you can go long. I mean, something as simple that you taught me was just you are the human responsible for making me wake up early.
Oh, thank you.
Literally,
sir.
you are. I remember
That's
when
what's
we were
up.
at Bottega Louie, when I did the 5 a.m. for 4 months.
And then now that's the reason I wake up.
Hey!
It is, literally.
That's
You've
tight.
never said that. I fucking knew it, you motherfucker. I knew it.
That sounds
Well,
the
I know,
full
guys.
reason, but,
But
like,
now I'm up
Yeah.
way before you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So why don't you drop a couple gems for aspiring early entrepreneurs, just life advice.
So I would say, first of all, is consider that how you are in one area is how you are everywhere, right? So think about disciplines that you can develop, that you can control. You can't always control what's going to happen in business, but you can control when you wake up. You can control what you read. You can control what you eat. You can control the words that you say to people, right? So be very, I think we live in this world where everybody wants to look like it without necessarily being it. So consider that you're not missing anything. You've already got it within you. That energy is within you. I was just reading that Marianne Williamson quote the other day, and she said, you know, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. So as you wake up, as you start to let your own light shine, waking up, you unconsciously give Jeff permission to do that same thing. Know that, yeah, to be successful and to make money, that's awesome, but to be an example of what it's like to, and what it looks like to be an awesome human being who cares about people, that's going to go a very, very, very long way, because we all know that person who's highly successful and a total asshole. You don't want to hang out with that person, right? So that's the first thing I would say is be aware of who you're being outside of real estate. Outside of business. I'm always in real estate mode. But be aware of how you're being outside of business and the impact that you're having in your relationships. And what's the conversation with your inner self? What's the conversation with your inner dialogue?
I fucking love that, because for me, I think being vulnerable and sharing my failures. I mean, even today in this post that I did this morning, I'm literally having people DM me, mimicking the quote that you just said, that I've allowed them and encouraged them to be more open about their failures.
Right.
And that shit feels so fucking good for people listening out there. There's nothing better outside of saying you changed someone's life. Someone saying that you allowed them to open up to things that they were, you know, nervous to open up about before they followed you.
I'm highly uncomfortable all the time, because you reach a mountain and it's like, you know, wife and I bought our dream home last year and it was like, oh my gosh. And now we're like, well, let's pay this thing off. That's our new goal. Let's pay the dream home off, like no mortgage, right? And then we're like, you know, can we invest and buy property? Can we do that flipping thing? We visualized it. We wrote it down. All of a sudden, the universe was like, boom, here you guys go. I mean, we bought, on top of our house, we bought 2 additional homes last year at crazy, ridiculous deals that don't make any sense. How did that happen? We asked for it. We prayed about it. We visualized it. People who follow me on social, they know the 2 deals that I'm talking about, the cabin that we bought and this other house we bought in Fullerton. Literally, we bought them for like $250,000 less than what they're worth. How did that happen? It didn't happen by some like algorithm on some website or some, I'm not paying some dude online to like give me leads. It's the universe, man. Like whatever you're thinking about and feeling, it's on the way. I always talk with my friend Liz Hernandez about this. We call it Manifest Prime. It's just like Amazon Prime, except your energy and your goals are how you manifest, right? Energy plus goals is how you manifest. So how does Amazon Prime work? You got an amount in your card, place whatever you want, make room on your doorstep. Well, this warehouse called the universe is the exact same thing. Whatever goals that you set, the money is your energy, right? If your energy is bankrupt and you don't believe in the goal you just set, that shit ain't arriving on your doorstep. But vice versa. If you say, you know what, Cole, design the entire marketing campaign for the next MTV VMAs. I feel that. They reach out to me. Oh, absolutely. I'm the best person to design the campaign for the VMAs next year. Absolutely. IKONICK and MTV, that fits. You place that request into the universe. Both you guys feel it. And next thing you know, you're on your email and you're like, bro, MTV just hit us up to design this whole campaign. And all of our canvases are going to be on the VMAs in the background. What the? And then you're sitting around being like, how did that happen? You guys know how this works, right? So manifest prime. Consider that as you believe in something with your total heart and soul, as you can see it happening, as you get specific with your results, just like Amazon, make room on the doorstep because it's on the way.
Gems, love it. Where can everybody find you?
At Kevion.
What about Case?
Kevion.
If you're buying or selling in Southern California, this is the guy.
You know what? Even if you need a referral in any other place on the planet, I'm not even kidding.
Bring it in the referral business.
I'm not even kidding. I know somebody in at least one awesome agent, at least in every state in America. That is for sure. So globally, you know, we could find one for sure. But in America, anywhere in America, you're looking to make a move and you want somebody who's actually going to work the way I work, shoot me a DM. I got you.
I also want to get on camera before we leave. You should write a book. You should make that one of your goals in the next 5 to 10 years. That's something that me and Jeff are working on.
Help me with the graphics.
He's doing the graphics for our book right now. I love it. But dude, thank you so much. So many gems.
Guys.
Thank you, Kevion.
Appreciate you, brother.
Let's go.